Hey guys, Amanda Kendall here. So wanted to come to you today and share a little bit of information with you guys on IRS notices. So many times I have new clients, potential clients come in my office and we're talking about what they have going on with the IRS, talking about where they're at in the collection process, what the status is of everything. And what I notice is they bring me a big bundle of IRS notices that are typically unopened. And so we sit there and we start sorting through them, and I just want to educate you guys a little bit on one, why it's important to open your mail from the IRS, but two, also what the notices mean and when you really need to start taking action and when it's just a friendly reminder, more or less. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So the first notice we're going to cover, and I'm going to kind of go through these in the order that you will receive them from the IRS. So the first notice you're going to get is what we call a CP14. This is a notice of balance due. So this is typically the first notice you'll get from the IRS when you file a return or they file a return for you and you have a balance due and it needs to be paid. At this phase in the process, this is probably the least amount you're going to owe in penalties and interest with this notice. So at this point, if you're able to pay the balance in full or set yourself up on a payment arrangement at this point, this is the ideal time to do it at that point. After this, you start to go through some notices that are going to move you into the collections department at the IRS. Penalties and interest are accruing faster, causing your balance to be more. So you really just want to, if you can address it at the level that you get a CP14 notice on any tax year, go ahead and address it at that level. Set up an installment agreement, give my office a call. We can help walk through that with you and get that set up for you. Second notice we want to take a look at today is a CP501 or a CP503. These are very similar notices from the IRS, and these are not as common to see anymore, but they do still come out, so I want to go over these. These are what we call reminder notices. So this follows your CP14, and it basically says, hey, we've sent you a notice that you owe taxes. You haven't done anything with it. You still owe taxes. Give us a call and let's get something implemented on this. So this is basically the IRS's way of saying, okay, we're reminding you that we've told you about this, but now we're going to start to get a little bit more aggressive, a little firmer with this, and we really want you to give us a call now. So at this point, you still haven't maxed out penalties and interest with the IRS. So if you can set up something at this point and you haven't at this level of a CP14, this is the ideal time to do that one for you. Then we start to get into some of the more intense notices. So our next ones are, there's a couple variations here. You can see a CP504. If you have a business, it's a CP504B. This can also be a letter 1058 if you're dealing with a revenue officer. But what this notice is it is a notice of intent to levy. When you get this notice from the IRS, you have somewhere in the range of a couple days to 30 days, depending on how many times this notice may have been sent out previously, before the IRS can start levying on your bank accounts. This notice is actually your final notice, like it says, before they levy. So at this point, you are in collections. So you've either been contacted by a revenue officer if you have a revenue officer, or you are dealing with someone, or you've gotten several notices on this balance due. Typically, depending on your balance at this point, liens have already been filed. So this is the point where if you have not taken action yet, this is the time to do it. Within, at most, about 30 days after this letter, the IRS now has the ability to levy bank accounts, garnish wages. If you're self-employed or you're a business, go after your accounts receivable. So this is the point where things are getting really serious and you really want to take some time and address the issue before it gets any more serious with this matter. So this notice is the point where you need to be getting on the phone with the IRS right away. You need to be contacting your revenue officer. If you're not comfortable doing that, which a lot of people aren't, we deal with the IRS every single day, so this is a natural process for us. We know how to deal with them. We know the ins and outs. We know the Internal Revenue Manual. We know what they're expecting and what our options are for our clients. But this is the point where you need to be contacting someone if you're not comfortable dealing with it on your own, to make sure that you are addressing this matter and getting ahead of the game here. This is not a notice where you want to be reactive with the IRS. You definitely want to move into a phase of being proactive here and get in touch with them before levies are issued. If they issue levies, if they issue garnishments, if they issue an accounts receivable levy, it is a lot harder to get that released than it is to just prevent it by taking the steps ahead of time. So if you have this notice, definitely make sure you're taking a step right away on this tax year. The notice that's very similar to this, but that I want to point out for people who are of retirement age and receiving Social Security benefits, is a CP91 or a CP298. So these notices are the same thing, final notice of intent to levy on Social Security benefits. So this is specific to Social Security benefits. Once you enter this program, this is what the IRS calls the Federal Offset Levy Program. Once you enter this program, you do not come out of this program very easily. Once you have a resolution in place, whether that be an installment agreement, a non-collectible status, you submit an offer in compromise, whatever it is that you submit, it's still going to take roughly about 45 days to cycle through from the IRS to the Social Security Administration to actually have the levy released. So if you get this notice, you want to act very, very, very quickly, because unlike a final notice on wages or a bank garnishment, that can typically be reversed depending on the steps that need to be taken. That can typically be reversed in about 30 days at most. This one does take about 45 days to work all the way through the process. Once the IRS accepts something, you're still looking at least one more payment being garnished. Whereas if you get ahead of the game on this one, we can actually stop it altogether. But this federal levy offset program, it is definitely more difficult to pull you out of that once you're in it. Social Security garnishment can take up to 15% of your benefits, no questions asked, if it's your only source of income. If it is not your only source of income, if you're receiving pension, you're also receiving wages, you're also self-employed, any of these things that a lot of people receiving Social Security benefits these days have another income source. If you have another income source, they can actually take up to 85% of your Social Security benefits without asking any questions on it. So this is definitely a notice where you want to get ahead of the game, and you definitely want to take a look at making sure that you're being proactive and not reactive on this one as well. So biggest reminder here is when you're getting these IRS notices, make sure that you're opening your mail and that you're just looking at what they are. If you're not sure, you can absolutely Google most of these notices and find out what they mean. If you're really not sure and you think you're in a situation where you need some help on this, give my office a call. And with True Resolve Tax Professionals, you can reach us at 720-319-8954. You can reach us on the web at www.trueresolvetax.com. I would love to communicate with you about what your notices are, whether or not you are at a point where you need some help, or if it's something that you can handle pretty simply on your own. But I can't answer those questions for you unless you give me a call. So I hope this has helped you work through some of those notices that you may have. Please, if you have any questions, give the office a call. Thanks, guys.